Good morning, everyone. It is the morning of the 3rd of May, 2024. Hope this video finds you well. Um, had a few days since my last video. Happy to say that I finally have a full day that I can devote to my car. So my big project today is to finally install my replacement left rear door, which I bought last summer from that wrecking yard in North Texas. I don't remember the name of it right now, but very nice door. It's in perfect condition, no rust, straight. It's got some primer on the outside, but that's fine. Just be another color to add to my rainbow car. Um, had several things happen in the last few days. Well, let me just go through my list. That's why I write this stuff down so I don't screw it up. Finally got my core steering gear sent back to Mark II Enterprises. It'll take about a week to get back there. But I was able to get a prepaid label from them, which was much less expensive, like $68 versus $125. So they said anytime I need to do that again, just let them know. So they're happy to help. So that saved me a good chunk of money right there. I did get my rim swapped on my front tire. I know you can't see it from that view, but I swapped the rims between the left front tire and the spare because the inner diameter of the center diameter of the wheel rim, the steel rim, was too big for the hub. So that tells me that's not an original rim to this car. And even though the lug nuts probably centered it just fine, I just didn't like the look of it. Didn't feel right to me, so I had it swapped out. Paid my mechanic to do that. So that's done. Then right after that, he took it next door to Midas to have them do another alignment. And this time they made some more changes, and definitely rides a lot better. I mean, it's to the point now where I can live with it. It's a boat. It's heavy. You know how these cars ride and handle. They're not meant to take corners fast or anything like that, but at least it feels safe and stable going down the road now. So I'm happy about that. I put about 50 miles on her yesterday, just driving her up and down here. Did about 15-mile stretch on I-95, about 70 miles an hour. She did great, no problems. But I tell you what, it was hot yesterday in the upper 80s, and I was pretty worn out. That heat gets to me, so it's giving me a little more motivation to rethink my idea of ignoring the air conditioning until next year, until after I move to Texas. But it's still not a high priority. Um, and I experienced my first vapor lock about 4 or 5 days ago. Luckily, it happened close to home, and I basically just had to coast across the street over there and get her going again and let her run for a couple minutes before I took off. So that motivated me to finally do something about a 3-port fuel pump. So I found this guy named Tony Bolin on Facebook, and he seems to have a pretty good rep. He rebuilds these at a reasonable price, reasonable, quote unquote reasonable. You know how expensive parts are for these cars. So I made a deal with him. I'm going to trade him some parts from the old 3-port that I attempted to take apart and messed up. So he gave me a deal, and it's shipping now, so I should have it next week sometime. I guess he's down in Florida, so I'm really excited about that. I already have a heat shield and a fuel filter, which he offered as part of the services. He includes a new fuel filter. But when I told him I didn't need one, that's how one of the price negotiating points that I made with him, because his fuel filters cost him a lot of money, so he passes that cost on. So let me show you the printout I got on the front end alignment. You can definitely see the differences. Oh yeah, that reminds me, I wanted to show you under the hood too, because you can definitely see they made adjustments, which they didn't do the first time, which I find very interesting because their printout, as you can see right here at the top, the adjustment they made was to the camber angles. You can see what it came in at. And then after they made the adjustments, what's interesting is this first shot was after their first alignment attempt. So obviously they didn't do a very thorough job the first time. So I'm glad my mechanic questioned them about it, and they decided they better do a more thorough job, and they did. And it didn't cost any extra to take it back. But just to show you what I'm talking about, right here you can see clearly where they made the adjustments. Both of these bolts were loosened, and they were adjusted, especially this front one. You can see how far it moved. So that made me feel a lot better. And you can definitely tell, by how it's driving. Don't think they had to touch this side. It doesn't look like. No, actually, I take it back. The bolts look like they were loosened on this side too, just not as much of a movement on this side. So I was very glad about that. So the alignment is finally done. All's well. And I hadn't even checked under the hood yet from yesterday's driving to see if I had any leaks or anything. And I'm glad to say that I don't see any leaks. So that's a good thing. I showed my new door off last summer, but here's a close-up of it. Very nice condition. It's it's complete. Oh, that reminds me, I got a new window motor too that I'm going to be putting in there as part of this project, because the motor that's in the door right now, it sticks occasionally. It doesn't want to come down. First blush, this door doesn't really look like it's very bad. There is this little indentation right there, and somebody suggested I could just pop that out like I did on the other side, on the other rear door. That's true, except that the last time I was inside this door, I discovered that on the bottom, you really can't see it out here, but all along the bottom here, there's all kinds of body filler and holes that were drilled in, to pull it out. I guess it had been damaged before, so I decided with that much damage on that door, I'm just going to go ahead and replace it. I'd rather have a good, solid, straight door that's never been damaged, so that when I get a paint job someday, there's nothing that has to be done special to this door. So that's the project for today. I don't think I'll have time to do anything else because this is pretty involved. You got to take all the trim off, the door glass, all the internals, the regulator, window regulator, all the wiring, everything. Because this is completely stripped. It's just a shell. There's nothing there. So that's what takes all the time. And I noticed too recently that I have some damage here. I think that's probably repairable. So I'm not too worried about that. I'll just swap it over. So that's what I'm going to spend my time today. Finally replacing this door after threatening to do it for months and months. As you can see, I've already removed the door panel. All this stuff in here comes off pretty quickly. The hardest part, though, I think, of the entire operation by far is getting these little small machine screws out here. There's 4 of them. One here, and one more through there. Those suckers are, where's that last one at? Oh, there it is. It's kind of buried. But anyway, a lot of times those things don't want to come out, and I may have to drill them out, but hopefully I can get them loose without ruining the screws. Once that's done, everything else will flow pretty quickly. Well, I was just shocked today. None of these screws were tight. So that makes it incredibly easy to get them off. That tells me when the repairs to this door were done. I meant to show that earlier. You can see here where they had pulled out dents, and there's quite a bit of work that was done in here. They must have had the window glass out before, because those little screws were barely even tight. So I'm thankful, because that just saved me a whole lot of work and effort. All right, the door is mostly empty now. Window regulator is gone, the glass is gone. It's sitting right there, regulator there. Now I am going to replace that motor, and it's obviously been replaced before. I mentioned that last year when I replaced the gear inside that motor, but it doesn't work right. It sticks sometimes. So of course I will put this in a vise of some sort to lock that in place so that spring doesn't catch me when I release it. So next steps are to finish removing things out of here, the door latch assembly, all that. It's interesting, I mentioned this before too. The rear doors on this car, even though the car never had power door locks, it was plumbed for them in the rear. I mean, you can see the hoses right here. Now they're dry. I don't think I would trust them. I'd probably have to replace them if I ever do decide to install those vacuum door locks. Since those pieces are here, my guess is that the nylon or plastic piping is probably inside, leading to the front somewhere too, which actually saves me quite a bit of work if I decide to go through with that. So just continuing on. All right, I've got the door emptied out now, so now I'm just going to remove these 6 mounting bolts, slide it right off the arms from the hinges, and then I can immediately begin to install the replacement door. And off she comes. I'd already gotten the wiring started and stuff, so she'll just slide right out. There's the hoses. All right, and the old door is removed. See what the new door is going to look like here. Alright, looks like I wasn't paying enough attention to the gaskets here. One stuck with the door and part of another one, so I can put those on later. I don't have to do that right now, I don't think. We'll take a look at that real quick. I don't need that motor sitting in there either. Let's see here. Oh yeah, it's stuck right on the door, but it's in two pieces, so I can glue that on later. Don't have to worry about that now. So I'm just going to set this replacement door in place. I think I better start feeding the wires and hoses in first. I don't need to watch this right now. This thing doesn't want to work again. I don't understand why this thing works sometimes and other times it doesn't. Alright, once I figured out the correct hole to slide my wiring and hose into, it went in very easily. So now I'm just going to try to get these up on the hinges here. Shouldn't be too bad. Like I said, the door is not very heavy at this point. And there you have it. Replacement door is hanging in place. So my next step is just going to be to secure the bolts onto the hinges before I do anything else, and keep going from there. So far so good. Now that I'm looking at the door a little closer, it's not as perfect as I had thought it was. I didn't notice this before, but there's a little protuberance right here on the bottom. So I looked on the outside, and you don't see that. And that can only mean that there's some Bondo or body filler right here that I didn't notice before, and you can see for a bit of cracking right there. So, I mean, it's minor, and that can be fixed in the future. And I looked a little closer, and I see some very minor surface rust. I mean, it's nothing serious, but the door is not 100%, perfect like I thought it was. But still, that's very minor, so I'm not at all concerned about that. Otherwise, that thing is beautiful. It's very clean, just very minor surface rust, almost not even noticeable. All right, I've spent about an hour fighting these hinges, these adjustments. I ended up having to move the main hinges a little bit. Kept fighting this. I had to compromise. It's not a perfect fit, but this is as good as I can get it. The part I don't like the most is right there, but I just could not get rid of that mismatch there, because everywhere else it looks pretty good. It looks pretty straight everywhere else. I did notice that the door appears to have maybe just the slightest bulge here. I'm not sure. I don't think that's a hinge adjustment, but I could be wrong. Nevertheless, that'll do. That took a lot of time. And then I kind of accepted that anyway, because when I go look at the other side, the other rear passenger door, it's even worse. And this is the original door, to my knowledge, especially right there. It's really bad there. So eventually, when I finally get around to readjusting this front door to close this gap right here, and that's part of the process of sealing up the wind noise issue here. I noticed the other day when I had the right sun angle, the sun was shining this way toward the car. I could clearly see the sunlight right through here, coming right through there. So that's definitely where the wind noise is coming from. It's not coming from the window gasket itself. But instead of just moving that frame, I really need to first adjust the whole door, the front one, and I'm probably going to adjust the rear one. I may not touch the rear one. I'll focus on the front one first. But that stuff is tedious and time consuming. But I'm finally to the point now where I'm satisfied with how this door is fitting. So now I think the next thing I will do, well, I have to do some cleaning. I got to take that latch and clean it up. I'm going to use carburetor cleaner because I don't have any more parts cleaner since I recycled it all. I'm going to clean up the window channels, get all that lubricated real well before I start putting it back together. So that's my next step. All right, I'm working in my shed now. I'm using my carburetor parts cleaner. I have one little channel in there soaking right now. The others I've already cleaned, just using a parts brush. Just sitting out here in the sitting out. That little piece down there. I'm also going to clean with a parts brush just the as much of the latch assembly as I can. It doesn't have to be perfect. This is a great time, though, to clean up this little light switch contact here. It's all greasy and dirty and doesn't make the best of contact, so this is the perfect time to clean that up to make that work 100% again. Then over here, my regulator's on the ground with the old motor. Here's the new motor. Here's the thing I don't like about all this is I'm going to have to cut my wire plug and solder it together, but I'll use my little solder stick setup here with the heat gun to make that work properly. So I'm going to get started on that soon. Looks like I'm having audio problems again. I don't know what's going on now. I can't get my lapel mic to pick up. That's really annoying, but anyway. I just used the old screwdriver trick to keep my window regulator safe from springing. I couldn't get the vise to hold it. When I tried to lock it in the vise, I couldn't get the motor out because it interfered with the motor coming out. So I just used this trick. It works pretty well. It is mounted in the vise. That's just to hold the whole thing in place. But the screwdriver's what's keeping the spring from springing. So here's my new motor. And the previous people, when they had just used the old style butt connectors. So I'm going to use my new solder connectors here. Connect that up. Something I forgot to mention earlier, I was a little too zealous with my parts cleaning brush when I was cleaning on the door latch, and unfortunately I bent my little contact here for the light switch. I should have taken it off first. I didn't realize it was so fragile. Not sure if I can save it or not, but I'm going to take the little screw out there, remove it, and see if I can carefully bend it back so it makes contact. Otherwise I may have to buy a replacement. Anyway, I'm just getting this new window motor ready to be installed right at the moment. All right, I figured out the problem with my lapel mic. I broke another one of these little adapter things, so I had to take my covers off. I got to be really careful now. Anyway, I'm done with my little soldering kit here thing. It looks pretty good. I'm getting better at it as I practice more. So now I'm going to wrap that in electrical tape just to be safe, and then remount that motor in the regulator. Well, I've never run into this before. My replacement window motor that I bought on Rock Auto, I believe it was, has no threads in the holes. I've never run into that before. So in order to use my original mounting screws, I mean, I guess I could use some bolts and nuts, but no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use my tap and die set. I'll just cut my own threads and get those screws in there. Strange. All right, so far I've managed to cut one hole. It went well. I just had to be careful to make sure I found the right size tap or die. I never know which one is which on these things, and I tested the fit with my screw, and it works perfectly. It tightened down. I used my old motor. That's how I figured it out. That's how I figured out the right size. When I found the one that went easily into these threads, I knew I had the right one. The only thing I can do now is just save myself some effort because I didn't need to go all the way through like I did on this one. I can just go about halfway through because those screws are pretty short. Of course, I get real nervous doing this kind of thing because if you don't get it perfectly straight, now that I'm looking at that, I don't think it's perfectly straight. It can cause problems, but I think I'll go with it okay. All right, so we're going to run a test now on the motor here. After I threaded my holes, I got them locked in there. Everything looks good, so let's see what happens. Use my bypass switch. Go up and down with it. All right, looks good. Looks real good. Okay, everything works. So I'm ready to install that after I get my channels all cleaned up and installed. All right, on the door latch, this switch right here, that's a common point of failure. You open your rear doors and your lights won't come on. It's usually because that cam you see right there, it gets dirty and corroded and stuff. So I took a little bit of sandpaper and just sanded that down a little bit, got it cleaned up. Beware though, this switch here, that wire is very delicate. I almost broke mine when I was cleaning with my parts brush. I touched it and it bent out of shape. So I was able to carefully, I took the little screw off and took it out, and then I bent it back very carefully. I had to be careful because at the base of it where it touches the plastic part of it is missing. It's corroded away, so I'm surprised I was able to recover it enough, and it does work, or at least it makes good contact, so I think I'll be all right. But anyway, so I'm about to reinstall the door latch now. All right, doing good here. I've got the window glass in the door now. Everything is locked in place. These little screws. It's gone pretty smoothly so far. Now, and I've got all my wiring in here secured properly, that type of stuff. So now I just need to adjust the window so that it fits properly when the door is closed and seals and all that stuff. So I'm working on that right now. Moving right along. I'm finally getting toward the end of this. I'm glad I allocated a full day because I've needed all of it. I don't remember if I mentioned this earlier. I think I did, but that little switch gave out on me, so I'd forgotten about the wire. I brought it through, and it's not supposed to come through here, but that's okay for now. I did have to tape off the end of it so it doesn't ground itself and turn the lights on inside. But you can see the door is basically complete. Just got to put the door panel on. I still have to put all the seals on the outside still. They left remnants of the original one there. I still got to pry that off, get it off. But now that it's adjusted, it looks pretty good. Everything lines up pretty close. I'm still not thrilled about this right here, but it's as close as I can get it. I mean, it looks pretty good. The only thing I'm not happy about is this is actually very similar to the right front door, the passenger front door. I can't close the window all the way when the door is closed, so I have to close it all the way when it's open like it is now. So you can see it. It works just fine, up and down. Uh-oh, I see it's hitting that wire there. I'm glad I'm doing this right now because I got to move that wire out of the way. Shouldn't be touching the wires at all in there. I must have missed a loop in there or something that holds them back. But the reason it won't close all the way is because it's a tight fit against this this belt right there. And I don't really want to make any further adjustments because it will close all the way. It just, you can kind of see it pushing there at the end. So if I try to do that while the door is closed, if I try to close it while the door is closed, it really won't. See, it kind of gets stuck right there. So it's a little bit of a tight interference fit. But right now I'm just I'm running out of steam, so I'm just going to live with it the way it is. There'll be a lot more body work in this car's future, so it'll be, all those kinds of adjustments can be made in the future. Oh, I still got to put this strip on top too. Anyway, I'm almost done. So as I'm getting ready to put my stainless peak trim back on, I noticed something interesting. I didn't know there could be variations like this. Of course, I don't know what year car this came off of either, but there are fewer of these pins on here on this door than there were on my original door. I've got 3 extra clips here, one here, one here, one here. They existed on this original door, you can see right there. I just found that fascinating. I have no idea if the number of pins changed over the years or what, but I was just pointing that out as a little oddity. I've just had my suspicions confirmed. This door had to have come off a 68 or a 69 Lincoln sedan. That would explain the difference in the number of the pins up here, and I just noticed there's no holes for my pull handle to go. I think 68, 69 either had them in a different location or just used a different setup. So I'm going to drill a couple of holes real quick so I can put my pull handle in place, and then I'll continue on. Almost there. Okay, this is my wrap-up segment. I'm finally done. It took all day long, but I got it done, so I'm pretty happy about that. Doesn't look bad. The door is adjusted as well as I could get it. It's not perfect, but, it'll do. And the window's adjusted as well as I could get it. It'll do. So I'm just happy it's done. I found another ding, though, that I didn't like, but it's just the way it is, I guess. I noticed here, my door panels are in bad shape anyway, but I realized that there's some damage right here. That's minor, and I can pop that back out easy enough when the time comes, especially when I get to replacement door panel someday. But I'm a little disappointed about that, but not too bad. Overall, it's good. So that's it for today. Have a good evening.